Yeah, so 3 weeks ago, I was promoted to global TA manager for Morale. I'm responsible for
Yeah,
all TA operations. Global means I have North America, LATAM, we call it Asia and Oceania,
yeah, yeah,
North Europe and South Europe. So we're pretty divided.
yeah.
Um, it means that we, as a team now, there's just shy of 20 of us. So it's not small by any scope at all.
Yeah,
And on average, we fill around about 1,400 positions a year. That's kind of been our magic number. We are a business that, we both replace and grow. I think when I joined the business 3 years ago, January 3 years ago, during COVID, in a food
wow.
manufacturing company when everybody else
Yeah,
was, firing and not hiring.
yeah,
And, from there, we've gone from growth to growth, from strength to strength. We're an 8,000 plus company now. And ultimately, the job market's changed, and the job market's changed over the last 3 years, and you've had to accommodate. Like I said, I was in a
yeah,
candidate rich market to where we are now, where, money, cost of living, crisis, recession. There isn't a candidate rich market anymore. How do you start plugging for resource in different ways? How do you move with it? So
yeah,
yeah, quite an interesting challenge. And ultimately now being globally responsible, not just for Europe, it allows us to align a little bit better and ultimately understand different cultures and maybe even utilize, we're not a company that's well set up at the moment for relocation.
yeah.
Maybe that's the next way of us moving with the trends.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So just to to give people a bit of an insight of Maro, what do you do as an organization, and
Yeah,
your
of
kind of
course.
area, especially.
So my history is I started as an agency recruiter. I worked for Hayes.
Oh, did
Like,
you?
yeah, like many people, let me be very, everybody, like
Yeah,
you walk in. So I walked in for an interview. That's the best thing ever. I walked in for an interview I just finished university, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'll go and get a credit control job type thing over the summer to work out what I need to do with life.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
3 hours later, I remember walking out of
Hmm.
the office with an assessment day the next day, because it was back when they did
Hmm.
the assessment days and they had the Hayes people in there and they were
Hmm.
monitoring
Hmm.
you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I walked out of the then assessment center and had a job offer and was starting in a place that I never imagined to be starting, doing a job I never anticipated.
Yeah,
And I'm so old. There was a one email address. I think you'll remember the days where it was everybody had a computer, but it was one email address, and you all
yeah,
had to
yeah,
work
yeah,
off
yeah,
the one email address.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
had fax machines to do credit checks and
Hmm.
police
Hmm.
checks,
Hmm.
and we
Hmm.
had literally a Rolodex on our desk. That's how old fashioned it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
And,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you were ringing people for work. So that's when I started.
Wow.
I cried my first year. I cried. It was
I'll
it
tell I'll tell you a funny story about my journey, but yeah, yeah,
I cried. I had to fill office support roles up to 16,000 pound within like a location, and that was my life. And I had, yeah, terrible
yeah,
feeling with it. That
yeah.
said, Hayes, honestly, I owe a lot to, because their
Mm,
training is absolutely remarkable. The way they onboard people has been sort of
yeah,
the success to my career. And within 12 months, I was promoted to senior. And 18 months into my career, I was already managing an office. And
yeah,
I had sort of six people that reported to me, all far older than me, far more
yeah,
experienced. So
yeah,
lots
yeah.
of interesting personalities to deal with. Moved on to page personnel. I think everybody does. They get to a point
Wow.
where
Yeah,
they need
yeah,
to make the move. Um, and then I met my husband, and it was a choice of relocating. I wanted to go Malaysia, and he decided Amsterdam. It was close enough to mum still.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we relocated to Amsterdam again, agency life,
Fantastic.
English
Mm,
agency.
mm,
And then I got
mm.
my first break with a company called Align Technology.
Okay.
And they are a medical device company that do the Invisalign. Everybody in the UK
Oh,
sees
yeah, 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 yeah.
Invisalign.
You have it. We just
Fast.
paid a fortune for my son to get those done.
There
Yeah,
you go. There you go.
yeah, yeah,
Software-based company, fast paced, lots of drive, lots of turnover. Really interesting, all about results. Really good company. brand new TA team. Was very fortunate, came in as a senior and then got promoted within 3 months to the manager there.
Yeah.
And was there just over 18 months. And unfortunately, they decided to relocate themselves to Switzerland and Poland. Um,
Okay.
I just settled in the Netherlands. There was no way that I was going off to Switzerland
Coming
where the
back.
prices were even more astronomical. And Poland just wasn't on the agenda. So I
Mm,
took a
mm,
job at a competitor of where I am now, a company called JBT. And I went and carried on sort of my manufacturing career, food manufacturing. I was there just shy of 3 years. COVID hit for
mm.
6 months of the 3 years. I didn't recruit.
No, no, mad.
They really it went deathly silent.
Mm,
JBT was both food manufacturing and aerotech.
mm,
I reported in through
mm.
aerotech, and obviously, where were the flights?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it crashed and burned, so there was no need for
Yeah.
TA at that point. So I stepped away, and where I am now, my story is I basically contacted the global TA director and said, look, I'm your competitor. You'd be a fool not to talk to me. And Paul Green, bless his heart, he took it. He spoke to me for a few months, and yeah, eventually hired me to join in the January. I came in as a contractor to begin with, and really my career's just progressed and progressed with them. We're a food manufacturing company. We
Mhm,
have, or we report on four parts of our business. We have protein, which is poultry, meat,
mhm,
and then fish. We have three separate divisions. Our fourth is then where we moved to more during COVID, which is retail food solutions. It's your
mm,
alternative proteins, your pet foods, those sorts of things. It became a
mm,
big market for us.
mm.
Poultry is 48% of our business where we sit today.
Oh.
We sit on both the Icelandic and Dutch stock market, which is really
Mm,
interesting. It's really different working for a European company. It has absolute
mm.
amazing benefits, I have to be honest.
Okay. Yeah.
We are our entire EVP team sit between Iceland, Denmark, and the Netherlands, which is again
Hmm.
a really interesting factor for people that want to join us. We're an
Mm.
end-to-end solution, so we are basically from farm to table, which is,
Cool. Okay.
a real competitive advantage for us,
Mm,
because we
mm,
can, give you the entire solution to what you need to be successful. So companies like Beyond Meat, sorry,
mm.
are those that have the vegetarian burger that supply into Burger King. We have
Yeah.
contracts out with, KFC in Africa and things like that are really successful for us. Um, and then I'm pretty sure Bernard Matthews in the UK is a big one for us as well. So in that eastern part, Norwich way, we have loads of those
Yeah. Yeah.
flats and stuff, and that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
where our sites are. So we work really with our customers. Um, the way that you would be able to acknowledge in the supermarket a little bit is all of our machines are actually AI driven, which is really
Okay.
interesting. And they can actually predict the way that meat's cut. So when you're in a supermarket and you see the A, B, and C in the meat,
Mm,
that's
mm.
the grading of the way that meat is cut. So we have people called process technologists that help our customers understand the way a machine can run and function and then grade their meat. Um,
Wow.
we are so advanced that we during COVID brought in augmented reality to our business, and what that allows, we have service engineers that go out to service our machines, and they will actually put a set of glasses on, and they can send back the image that they have in front of them and speak to people here in the Netherlands or other locations to help assist with a problem. So it actually allowed for less people to be there during that period where you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be in vicinity
Be
with
there.
each other,
Yeah.
and also allow for us to move our business forward. And then we went one further step forward while I was in, and we went into virtual reality. And
Mm.
we actually have the ability to show a customer our setup or our design within their manufacturing unit. So if they decide to go with us for a particular machine, we can actually put on like a set of virtual reality goggles. They can stand in their manufacturing site and actually be able to visualize their machine there before it is even there. So it's incredible. We are a manufacturing organization,
Mm,
but
mm,
we are so heavily software driven that
mm.
we are technically a software company. And it's
Company.
actually one
Yeah,
of
yeah,
our
yeah.
biggest challenges, when we're
Yeah,
talking to people that we want to attract, particularly software engineers or people, that want to be a part of the new modern, well, you're just a manufacturing company. No,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we have
No, you're
all
more
of
than
this
that.
tech, and people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. One of the biggest
I love this.
questions I get asked is, do you still eat meat after all of that, knowing what goes on? Yeah, I do, but I also know like where to buy my meat. I know what I'm looking
Yeah,
for. I can really understand the journey a little bit more. And I'm actually more grateful for it because I've actually got a lot more insights to it, to be honest. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a great company,
Wow,
great journey.
love that. Love it. The backstory being that, obviously, we introduced my brother, who obviously, you work with. And I'll put my hand up and say, when he told me who he was working for, I did a Google search like you always do. And I was like, oh, food manufacturing. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And we talk about, we have a million other things that we talk about. So we never really go into the detail about work and all that type of stuff. But what you've just told me is absolutely fascinating. And to kind of before we go into the nitty gritty of kind of talking about the candidate experience thing, first and foremost, I'm a fellow Hayes alumni, right? Like you, my story was literally I had a lot of my friends at the time. This was in 2000, just before the the tech boom or whatever that was that we all worried about. And they were coming in and they were earning good money, right? And I was working at All Bar One at the time, and I was like, I want a piece of that action. They're like, oh no, you hate recruitment, it's not for you, blah blah blah. I said, oh, hold on, who are you to tell me it's not for me? So I joined Hayes, and I was on the Hayes Montrose side, and there was 10 of us we joined, and within the first 3 months, in the 3 months, I was one of three left. Okay, and I remember exactly that where we had Adapt as the
Yeah. Oh
CRM for
God,
us
it
at the
went to
time.
one
Yeah,
touch after that. Jesus, that was
yeah, yeah.
clickety click click
I
click.
remember the Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I remember the first, honestly, we did, even the interview was like, here's a pen. How would you sell this pen to me? And
Yeah, that
you just
same.
get,
It
oh,
never changed. I joined in
never
2006. It
changed.
never changed.
Oh, okay, good to know. So 6 years later, it was still the same, right? And so I remember the first day when they said, right, you know what, here you go. You're gonna have the property and construction, and you're gonna have everything from A to M was my sector,
Yeah.
right? I was like, oh, we're dividing and conquering, but you can't have everything at A to M because the guy that's in the role, Gethin, really a lovely guy. He's picked the 5 customers that he wants out of that as well. So I'm like, well, okay, so basically you've taken the best that you want, and now I'm literally left with the scraps. And it's like, there's a phone, there's your desk, get on with it. And I was like, okay. And I went to the men's, and I sat in the cubicle, and I'm not gonna lie, I was sick, right? I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember thinking to myself, I've got two choices here, right? I'm either it's gonna be sink or swim, right? So you just gotta get on the phone and just see what happens. And if
And it
I
was a
tell you this,
pound a
I
call.
abs
Pound a call if you're
yeah, yeah,
American.
yeah.
You pound a call.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was all that. And I remember the first 10 or 12 calls, no joy, all that type of stuff. Then I started to talk to them. Then I realized that candidate piece was the best piece. So I started talking to more candidates. And they pulled me up and said, you got to talk to clients as well. But I found the candidate piece. But what I loved is that, the training, the way they throw you into the deep end and all that type of stuff. But I fell in love with recruitment from that moment because to me, it was more than just finding a candidate and placing them, right? It was about matching those two things together. And then when the magic happened between those two parts, to see, I've got clients now who are managing directors of construction companies, like I was in property and construction, who are MDs, and they're still,
Yeah.
friends and clients now. Right. I remember them when they were the site manager and contracts manager. And I don't think there's any other profession in the world. And maybe in tech, I'm now in tech and I can feel what that means. But I don't think there's any other career in the world where you connect those two type of things, where it's not just about the person. It's
No.
there's so much more around the psychology, the connection, because we spend a lot of time at work. So yeah, so I'm a fellow Hayes, and I think, I always say to anyone, if you're going to go into recruitment, if you're going to go into talent acquisition, you have to start at Hayes. You have to have a stint at
Yeah.
Michael Page. I had one with sales and marketing. I find it completely different as a culture. And I
Fully, yeah,
never
fully.
really,
No.
yeah, it's two different things, right? And I just loved Hayes. But yeah, so there we go. So there's that common piece there. And yeah, it's fascinating because for my journey, this is my second startup. My first startup was around how can we set the world of careers alive, because I felt like in schools, the teachers that kind of deliver careers, especially in the UK at the time, is that it's teachers who have gone to, done their A levels, gone to university, done their teaching qualification, come back to teach. And so therefore there's a disconnect between what is actually happening in the world of work and what
Yeah.
is happening in terms of education. And how do you connect those two dots? And the careers companies we had, they knew this, they only knew the company that was around the corner from them in their community. They wouldn't really necessarily know about, say, your organization and the fantastic opportunities that exist. So we wanted to create a model that would kind of connect that and bring the world of careers alive. So when you were telling me about the AI and the VR, and I was like, oh, wow, how exciting. So my head was thinking, oh my gosh, how amazing is this? And then stepping forward into this role, it was exactly that. Was okay, how do we take fantastic organizations who are doing really fantastic things, but it's really hard, and we'll now talk about this, is there's an employer brand perspective, isn't it? We talked about it a little bit now,
Yeah.
where people look at your organization, Maro, and go, oh, it is a food manufacturing business. Oh, I don't want to get involved in that, right? It's not for me. But actually, it's more of a software company, which, let's be realistic, in the last 10 years, that's the space where everyone wants to be in. But what's fascinating about it is it's using technology that there's companies that are being backed with billions of pounds and millions of pounds
Yeah.
to use, and you guys are using that from reducing improving your customer experience, improve, efficiency and effectiveness and all that type of stuff. So just talking about when we mentioned around candidate experience, right? So we talk about the key things around kind of employer brand, and how do we use that to kind of get as part of the candidate experience piece to attract that talent, to then convert it into really motivated, interested talent, etc. How are you guys gone about it? Kind of being seen as a food manufacturer, but doing all these fantastic things in the background.
I think for us, it's the story. If you ask any of my team, they'll hear my words and that they've started regurgitating them now. I might need to change it up, but it's about the journey, isn't it? That's really the truth of it. You have to take people on the journey, and that can come from your candidates right the way through to your stakeholders, right the way through to yourself. Sometimes, you have to bring yourself back in. We're a business that is ever changing. Since I've been here, we've done 2 change management pieces within Morel. And, being an Icelandic company, when change happens, any change, if we have an EVP leave, if we have something just in general kind of changing that, the Icelandic people need to be notified. So it goes that night at 6 p.m. on the news. It's incredible. So for us, we're a company that, communication's key for a million percent. And I think that's the most important thing when you take people on that candidate journey. How communicative can you be? We started by
Mm.
using some simple slides. We highlighted our kind of special areas, our percentage breakdowns of where revenues come down. That's nice to see. Some people want to see that. Your finance people, your business people, your sales people, they want to see, how does that look? But then you also have to, reflect on your audience as well. And
Mm. Mm.
and that's time and energy from yourself. What we did slightly different in TA is we have put specialisms behind it. So within TA, we have
Okay.
people that really, I have somebody that purely recruits for IT. He was a
Okay.
sales IT guy before. He sold IT equipment. He was an IT manager. He knows IT inside and out. He wasn't in recruitment until the last few years of his career. We chose
Mm.
somebody that could talk to IT people on a level that they could actually understand.
Yeah.
My person that we've just moved into software, we're upskilling so that she really understands software. She's gone on courses, she sits with them. We utilize people within the team to explain software to her so that she can have the right conversation with people in software. What we also did different is when we came down to sort of our more local support functions, we put local specialists in place. So people that
Okay.
understood the Danish culture, the Icelandic
Hmm.
culture, the Dutch culture. And then what we've done when we've got the specialisms and local, we've combined the two so that we can upskill both parties, allowing them to have the local and the more technical side so that people can then be successful. When it comes to the candidate journey for us, it starts at that very first interaction. We don't get, well, it's right and wrong. We get 38,000 applications last year. That was our number. We
Wow.
don't use any AI software. We are genuinely reviewing those applications.
Wow.
Genuinely. At this moment in time, it will change. Everything's changing. But at this
I've
moment
I've
in
got a question
time,
because yeah, I always think about that's a really good insight because actually I always ask the question about how effective is it application and CV is going to be, but that's fascinating. But yeah,
yeah, I mean, we have a tool behind, we have a
yeah,
CRM system behind our Workday, which is our ATS, which actually
yeah,
does
yeah,
grade them. But I
yeah,
wouldn't say it's the most effective, to be honest, because to be
yeah,
the most effective, you'd have to have the most effective job description. But job description is only one tiny part. We look for
mm,
personality over everything. I would say
okay,
personality is a big part of what we look for at Morel. Personality over
yeah,
a CV, it's interesting. So we're going on a journey at the moment because of having 38,000 applications of looking at AI material where can it really help us? And is that where we go with
mm,
it?
mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
but our candidate journey is part applications. We have a lot of problems really attracting people. And it comes down, like I said, that software, that manufacturing bit, the understanding there. So do we get as many as we
mm,
should? Um, we're not in a candidate driven market right now, as far as I'm concerned,
mm,
so having
mm,
applications is not the utmost. We have LinkedIn licenses. So for me, it's that very first interaction piece. How much information are you sharing and how much is relevant?
mm, mm,
And,
mm,
you've then got the category that you're then putting it to. Software people are getting hundreds of emails a week. How do you distinguish
mm,
yourself? And
yeah,
that
yeah,
for me is where I feel the team, they are unique in the sense of the way they approach people. They make it more unique. It's really tailored to people. We try come in a little bit different. And it
mm,
even got down to ourselves working a little bit with like your chat GBT things to have a look at different way
yeah,
of
yeah,
wording
yeah,
stuff, the different
mm,
generational pieces that chat GBT can educate you on as well,
yeah,
because the generational pieces then play a part. When we did
yeah.
our early careers pilot that we started this year, I'm not an emoji person. I'm no way would I send a candidate I'm so
I
old.
am. I love them.
I'm not there. But I literally
Yeah, yeah,
typed into ChatGPT, make this sound Gen Z orientated. Put emojis in
yeah,
where it should go because I have no idea what emoji would go where.
yeah,
And the thing that we had back, it was good, like it was good. Don't get
yeah,
me wrong. We had to
yeah.
change, like we had trailblazer used as one of the words. Who really would use a word of trail?
Use
Not
that
really.
word.
So we changed some
Yeah,
of it, but it was actually a really good
yeah,
tool so that we could utilize and learn a little bit about what those individuals wanted within their messages. We knew, but we had to kind of take it to
mm,
the next level. So when it comes
mm,
to us on the candidate journey, it's that really first initial touch base point, because that's what distinguishes you and that's what makes you unique. And it's not even
mm,
that part that's important. It's even down to the way that you reject them at the end. So the
mm,
market changed. People want
mm,
honest feedback. They don't want just this, oh, you weren't successful, thanks, and see you next time. No, they want the
yeah, yeah,
information. Why was I not successful? What is it that was missing? You know, take aside 38,000 applications and then having to respond to them all and then giving the market what they need, you also have to be conscious of how you do that in the right way. Because the reality
yeah,
is, you know, these people could be right for your business in the future. Okay, it's not now.
yeah,
And that's a lot, TA is quite young in a lot of companies. We've had a TA function here for 6 years, where it's really been running its 4.5. Actual proper TA function
Wow.
is four and a
Of
half
G. Yeah, yeah.
years. You know, you have to understand that over that period of time, what was set up then is not now. You know, what we don't do great at Morel is we don't have the opportunity to really relocate people yet. You know, a lot of American companies, and where I was before, they're great at offering sign-on
Italy.
bonuses and, you know, those relocation costs and helping with visas. We're not there yet. We're learning,
Mm,
and we're bringing vendors in to be able to help us, but we're not there yet. And like I said, maybe today I can't hire someone from, I don't know, somewhere that, because we're saying, you know, it has to be a certain place. But in the future, they're probably the right person, and we'll bring them in that way. So your candidate journey, in my opinion, when you need to listen to the market enough, and you need to understand that when you're giving those touch points throughout, they need to be as personalized as possible.
mm. I'm a great believer in that because I think, we spoke briefly, I think candidate experience for me is, maybe it's a his background thing, is so important, right? And
Massively.
yet organizations spend so little time on that because, like you say, I've got 38,000 applications, I've got 1,000 vacancies to fill, so therefore my numbers are telling me I should be okay. But what we don't think about is how much of that 38,000 are relevant for what we want today, and then what does that mean for tomorrow, right? So I'm quite interested. So what's your sort of candidate kind of, it's part of that kind of experience engagement piece. What do you guys do with, say, the 37,000 that you don't hire, right? How do what's your techniques and tactics around nurturing, engaging, continue, how do you kind of operate with that?
Yeah, so we started building talent pools. It had to come down to talent pools at
Yeah,
the end for us. So our
yeah,
our system is Workday.
yeah.
We're on a journey with Workday. I wouldn't say it's the best system. I have to be honest. I think, you know, it can be a little bit clicky. We don't
Mm,
have the candidate portal set open yet. We're doing some things ourselves where we've had to grow as well.
mm,
And, you know,
mm,
this year is going to be an amazing year for us. We're going to open the candidate portal, and, you know, we're going to start doing things that we just haven't done before.
mm,
Um, for it's so it's been a bit difficult on the
mm, mm,
38,000. We have some where we're in a situation where we just know we can't hire. And you know, it's a straight rejection,
yeah,
and that's what it is. It's a very generic rejection. On the ones that we can be successful with, we've tried to make sure that we have more touch points.
mhm, mhm.
And is it Hayes touch points where you're ringing on a monthly basis? No, it's not, you know, but
Um,
it is something that we're now trying to do. Like, what does communication look like?
mm,
And how can we make it work? And then on a global level, where we have a couple of problems and where the market has changed, you've got your GDPR here in Europe, which is
mm,
also something that you really have to manage. You know, expectations of and so on, laws, different
mm,
country laws.
mm,
You know, you've got your how long you can keep information in the system without, you know, jeopardizing anything. That's one part. I then have regulations in LATAM. I have
yeah,
OFCCP regulations in the US, which we're
yeah.
also trying to manage. The beauty in the US, I can keep their data for 10 years.
That
Um,
was amazing, isn't it?
do whatever I want with it. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, in Europe, it has become a little bit harder. And, you know, you have people where they want to opt out. They may have applied, and then you get emails, hey, I want to opt out. And
Oh, yeah.
you know, I had one manager once that when you're in the circle of trust, you're in the circle of trust. But the minute that you opt out, I don't want to ever hear from you again. And I
Hear
was
from
like,
you again.
yeah, but is that really how we want to move
No,
things?
hello. Yeah.
Um, it is difficult. I have to be honest. I wouldn't say it's the most simple thing. And I think it's something that we haven't been good up until this point. It's something that we're having to learn from. There's a guy on LinkedIn that I follow. I went to a couple of LinkedIn conferences years ago, a guy called Ed
Mm,
Nathanson. He's a great guy to follow. He's all about the candidate journey. He did this seminar on um individual and unique responses to the end of interview feedback and things like that. So people actually got really informed, and
Yeah.
you kept them on board. Great guy to follow. If I could recommend somebody on LinkedIn to have a little look
Okay.
at
It's on.
candidate
I've written it
journey.
down.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And that's where I want to go. That is where I
Mm,
want to go, but we're just not there yet. And we've had to have conversations in-house on how we get there and what it looks like. So is it that we update with things that are going on in Morel? Do we do little newsletters to people? Is it something where it's on a quarterly basis? Who's really considered to be part of that talent pool? That's the other piece that you
mm,
then have to look at, because a lot of the time you're looking at the now. And then in Morel, we went through a phase where we were hiring for the future,
yeah.
but the
Yeah.
future, we didn't have the future. And
Yeah.
then you're
Yeah.
bringing somebody on board sort of a bit misleading.
Mm,
So for me now at the moment, we have talent pools. We have people that touch base just with little WhatsApp messages or text messages, which is really common for us in Europe. It's not uncommon anymore. It's a
mm,
little bit different in the US. They're not so responsive to those sorts of
yeah.
things. But certainly in Europe, WhatsApp and text messages have worked well for us.
Yeah.
And then again, just email touch points of what's going on in the company. And then we do constant refresh because of GDPR every 6 months. Do you want to stay within our database? Are you okay with it? Those sorts of things. If it's a candidate that's been in a process where it's really a second and a third, then it's a lot more interaction. So it's a lot more phone call. We actually put touch
Mm,
points in
mm,
diaries, and we will have
fantastic.
proper conversations with them on a period that we agree, usually 2 to 3 months. Hey, this is what's
Mm,
happening in the business, just so you know, and so on. In other parts of our business, particularly sales, my sales guy is literally working like a sales guy. So he
mm,
rang me last night to say, yeah, I went to one of our sites today, and actually I just want to inform you, we met with two people that are in my network. I don't have an approved rec, Lindsay, like it's not approved in the system, but we've met with them and we've already kind of decided
yeah.
that we're going to move forward with one. And he's one of my leads, and I'm always like,
Yeah.
well, you need to lead by example. We have a process. We're also in the
Yeah.
middle
Yeah.
of everything needs to be approved at the moment,
Mm,
like
mm,
lead
mm,
by example. But I understand why you're maneuvering like you're maneuvering, because that's the way the network moves. But you
yeah.
also need to set up expectation with our stakeholders. So it's a bit of one of those. For us, our sales guys, they're at events. My sales guy, we had a massive food event 2 weeks ago, and he spent the entire time just talking. And when he came to find us at the end, he was like, yeah, I could have done a few more hours. I wish I'd done a couple more days. And I'm like, so if this is where your energy is and this is where your market is, then you spend the 5 days here next time, and you do your communications here. And his
Yeah.
communications are touch. This is where he's finding it. This is how he's doing his touch points, and this is where everyone talks to him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not a solid answer to your question, but I don't really have a solid answer at this moment in time, because it does differ. And then,
Yeah. Yeah.
my IT and software community, they won't want to hear from us. They will only want to hear from us when the time is right for them.
100%. And I think, what I love about this is that there is no, I always say that there is no um magic
No.
pill that goes, this solves everything. What's really fascinating is, when it comes to, when you think about candidate experience, we do the same thing. We're a small team, but there's nobody who's joined our business who hasn't, who I know who hasn't gone through the interview process, because that's also part of the candidate experience,
Yeah.
right? The importance of that candidate understanding and appreciating the organization and where we're trying to go and what we're trying to achieve. At the same time, part and parcel of that interview process is that you get to meet different parts of the business,
Yeah.
right? And therefore, it enhances that. If you sort of just get parachuted in because I met you at an event and I've gone, hey, you're really good at this, it's fantastic, right? And then we realize that actually we're not matched because we haven't gone through this process. then again, that impacts on that kind of experience because I'm gonna go away and go, oh yeah, I met them. They're quite wishy-washy about their hiring process because they met me at an event, we got on really well, but actually what they told me isn't what it looked like. And we go back to that, the importance of kind of matching that. And again, as you said, what I love is that audience. How do we positioning yourself for the audience that you're looking to bring in
Yeah.
and kind of drive that. What I'm really interested in is obviously, you have you've got say a Europe remit and now global remit as well. But each region, I guess, has a different culture, right? There's different nuances around communication,
Massively.
expectation. How do you guys work on that from when you think about that kind of experience, that value proposition, etc.?
Yeah, so in my team alone, we have 12 different nationalities, if I'm not mistaken. And we have
Wow,
16 different languages, which is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Everybody in my team, bar one, speaks at least a second language, if not a third,
fantastic. Yeah.
which is absolutely incredible. Um, yeah, so it's quite an interesting topic. We're a unique team, I have to be honest. And our
Mm,
personalities, everybody's everybody's themselves.
mm,
And I
love it.
think everybody accepts one another for each to their own. Um,
Mm,
for me, I'm quite so I speak relatively slow for an English person, let's be honest.
yeah, yeah.
I grew up abroad my entire life. I didn't actually go back to the UK till I was 18.
Hmm.
And the reason I moved back abroad was because I never saw myself in the UK. Why not?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, the team are very much like that. Most people have traveled in some shape, size, or form. I have an Italian girl that lives in Denmark.
Okay.
Most of my people have kind of been quite different.
Mm,
With regards to us, I think it makes us learn. I think it
mm,
makes us
mm,
more open because I also have people that haven't been anywhere and they have to learn. So,
mm,
one of the
mm,
big things that we do as a team is we meet all the time. We literally
mm,
have 5 hours a week that is purely with your team. And that's really
mm,
important because that's your opportunity to bond and that's your
mm,
opportunity to learn from each other. And,
mm,
I said I had local specialists, I have local specialists, and then I have divisional specialists.
mm,
And those then specialists can learn from local people to understand culturally what they're looking for, what their labor markets are like. You know,
mm,
it might shock you, might not. Denmark and Iceland and Norway are completely different type of culture versus somebody like me in the Netherlands,
mm,
completely different type of culture.
mm,
Their working days are different, the way they set themselves up, um, their holidays are different. Iceland can be on holiday
mm.
for 5 to 8 weeks. But when I first moved to the Netherlands, I get 42 days holiday, by the way, 42.
Wow. Okay. Team mustn't think
Um,
about that.
when I moved to the Netherlands, it's common for people to take 3 to 4 weeks out of a business. In the UK, that would
Wow.
never, ever, ever happen for us, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
In the US, it's impossible, right? I think US is 15 days. So
Well, my US
it's
team
that.
loved me because basically, like, they didn't even have Easter off. Who doesn't have Easter off? So I
Wow.
gave them a free day for Easter because it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen. My guy in Asia and Oceania, he's in Thailand. They get 12 days a year
Mm.
holiday. 12.
Wow.
What can you do with 12?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
culturally, I think it's been really insightful for people to learn from one another. But what's really interesting is they really want to learn. So, my guy in
Yeah.
Thailand is sitting in a best practice team with a load of people in Europe. So he's learning about the culture in Europe. He wants
Yeah.
the opportunity to work in Europe. So
Yeah.
what better than to bring him in and start giving him the opportunity to mix, interact with a best practice team in Europe and start to recruit in Europe from Thailand to see if he really wants to do it.
Yeah. I
My
like that.
lady in LATAM, she's desperate to either go to the US or something different. And, again,
Mm.
it's a very different culture. You know, we're talking about how will I move to the US, Lindsay? You know, there's things like English courses. A lot of my guys go on English courses because it is a second language. I speak slower because my team all have to translate what I'm saying into their native language 90% of the time. They will translate it, put what they want to say in their native language, and then come back out. One of my biggest questions for people that always speak multiple languages, my husband speaks 3 alone, is what language do you dream in? And that's one of my first questions I will ask candidates and team members, anyone. What language is it that you dream in? Because it's actually becomes really interesting. One of my guys I hired in the Netherlands, he's come in as a TA specialist. He's now one of my leads. He's absolutely phenomenal. When I first interviewed him, his English was terrible. Absolutely
Right.
terrible. He used
Yeah.
like Google Translate when we did all of the onboarding. I was doing it part Dutch, part English to him, but I really had to focus on English to bring him on. Now 95% of his portfolio is all in English for him. He is absolutely remarkable, but he still dreams in Dutch, and he still does all the translation, and he is becoming quicker and quicker in it, and you can see it. I've seen it over the last 2.5 years how quick it comes. I have one person that is Dutch but dreams in English because of the
Wow.
way we do business.
Goodness, yeah, and then so thinking about the diverse nature of your team, and the kind of the club, how you all work really closely. I guess when you're then hiring the talent, it's great having all those different nuances within the team because if you're hiring in Iceland versus the Netherlands, you've got that expertise, I guess, that helps with that piece
100%.
because and I guess they expect different as well, don't they?
They do,
Candidates in
and
Iceland are different from
it's needed as well. You know, I have our HR directors. We tried to streamline some parts that just haven't worked. You know,
Mm,
recruiting field service engineers is a really unique piece, and I really wanted to have, you know, that portfolio of one person just servicing Europe. But you can't have that. You can't have it in Iceland, Denmark, Norway. You can't have it in Germany. You know, most field service engineers in Germany, they only speak German. I don't speak German. I remember hiring field service engineers in Germany when I first joined this business. And I still
yeah,
have
yeah,
one guy come up to me in the business going, Lindsay, do you remember how bad my English was? I didn't really understand what you were saying. And I'm like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
me either, but it worked and you're still here and you're doing a great job. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you need that local influence sometimes. You know, you need that language. You need people to understand, as much as we're an English speaking company, that you can still have that local flavor, and
Mm,
that's really needed. You know, our
mm.
first change management piece was something that we call globalization. And the reason
Okay,
that we were split out as North Europe, SEMEA, Asia, Oceania, China, North American, LATAM, was actually to better service our customers. So
okay,
what our customers were wanting was local people. So they didn't want to keep calling into the Netherlands and not being able to speak in their local language. They wanted to speak to local people, to have conversations in local language to be successful. Because
yeah,
my biggest learning within my career of managing teams like this is what you and I say, because we're English and we speak English and we know English, we're saying the same thing. I can speak English with my American colleague and we're not saying the same thing. I've walked away
saying the
from
same thing.
things and I'm like really,
I know.
what are you saying? And then understood that, yeah, you speak English, but you're not speaking the same English I'm speaking. And then the
Yeah,
other part is, you know, particularly with teams, how can teams really sometimes vocalize what they're feeling? Because with language comes emotion.
mm,
And, you know, I can take my husband as a great example. He's Ghanaian, so Tree is his language. And it's such an aggressive language. It's, he sounds
yeah,
angry all the time.
Quite.
And the worst thing is it's not angry at all. Like I speak bits of Tree now. I've learnt over the years, like, but I
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
angry. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just the way that you present
It
it.
is said.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
Dutch is so simplistic that when you translate it into English, it makes no sense. Like they have, but for nice, they basically have one word basically for nice that could mean 50 different things. And it's just the
Different
way you
things.
put it into a sentence. So yeah, so for me that yeah, it comes into emotion, language, emotion, and it's very interesting. It's very, very
Yeah, it's
interesting
fascinating.
and so important that people understand that you have that understanding, that local flavor, and that you're not just going to be put into a company where people don't understand. And, you know,
Yeah.
one of the beautiful things about working for a European company is I finally felt at home, if that makes sense. I worked for
Mm,
American
mm,
companies for years, and yeah, it's very different. But working for a European company, you started to recognize that people really understood you for who you are and, you know,
wow.
had values and things like that. It's funny because working for Morel, for the first time, my American counterparts don't feel that. They don't
Yeah,
feel because it's not ran like an American company. And it's absolutely incredible.
yeah.
Some people adapted to it really well, like my counterparts love
Mm,
it. Like I said, they get a couple of free days here and there. Holidays not as strict.
yeah.
They kind of enjoy the working hours. But part of, you know, American morale, they do struggle with some of our decisions.
Yeah, I know. We're going through that with the US, and it's a fascinating kind of journey. Well, one thing I want to catch on quickly, I know we're going to run out of time, but I was really interested in your, you talked about this early careers pilot that you're kind of driving down. You talked about the need to sort of attract more, I think the IT and software space and all that type of stuff. Just it'd be quite interesting just to understand, 'cause I think when we spoke about earlier, you mentioned the fact that you have historically been really good at kind of hiring that talent early on and kind of bringing that talent through. So we're quite fascinated to see that, is it a going back to that journey or you're slightly different? And we talk quite interesting about the different nuances of the generations. I'd love to just kind of recap that for the audience as well.
Yeah, so Morel 17 years ago, I'm going to say, because that's Julie's age, 17, 18 years ago, did a really good job of bringing early career talent in. You know, people straight out of university, they did a phenomenal job. We have, you know, managers, directors. We actually have a VP of innovation that came in this way now,
Wow.
which is impressive. They've done their entire career, you know, straight out of university or internships, which is pretty common in the Netherlands. They started internships and then moved up within the
Mm,
business to be really successful. And I mean
mm,
really successful people. Because of market trends, obviously it fell off. It wasn't something that people were as
mm,
willing to invest in for a really long time.
mm,
Um, and I would say for the last 3 years, certainly while I've been at Morel, there's been a difficulty in talent. You know, it's not a
mm,
market where there's that opportunity anymore to really get the people that we needed. I think I mentioned to you
mm.
before, you know, one of our vacancies in IT was, you know, 480 days old, nearly 2 years. We'd done without
Wow.
this person for 2 years. And you all know that, you know, when somebody's without, so do you really need it? Do you really need
Yeah,
that
yeah,
person?
yeah,
They become the
yeah,
questions.
yeah,
We're presenting
yeah,
people, but you're not taking anyone.
yeah,
Um, you know, we went out to other markets, we explored other places, we bought contractors in, and contractors are expensive. You know, you're looking at a
mm,
lot of
mm,
money for these people nowadays, and it has become a
yeah,
contractors market. Let's be honest, particularly in IT
mm,
and
mm,
SAP. That you know,
mm.
if I could redo my
Yeah.
career,
Maybe I know, I know. Tell me about it.
you know,
If I know what I know now, right?
software engineer or IT, that's your money. You can retire early if you want to.
Yeah,
Well, maybe not with the
yeah,
cost of
yeah,
living
yeah,
anymore,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I
you
know.
know, it
You give it a good go though.
um so we struggled. We really struggled. And last year it was kind of tasked on me to start looking at alternative ways to bring in talent, and
Mm,
ultimately looking at different journeys. Um,
mm,
I did literally 9, 10 months of research because it is a
mm,
completely unbeknown platform for me now. We
mm,
bring schools in, we do a lot of school days and open days and things like that. But actually, what these individuals wanted, it's not the same market anymore. They don't go
mm.
in ready to be job ready, I think is probably the right word. When we came out, we had to be
Yeah,
job ready. What Gen Z people are looking for, and the more research I did, it was really about transferable skill sets.
yeah,
So you have to accommodate people as to what they want and how they can learn these transferable skill sets to be successful. Do you really go and get somebody from a pure IT background, or do you get people to be able to, maneuver and really enjoy? Transferable skills is like the biggest Gen Z word that I learned last year because it
mm,
was
mm,
what they wanted, and that was what they
yeah,
they are taught at university. How do you set yourself up for success? And that's by
mm,
getting a bunch of skills that you can utilize anywhere. Um,
yeah,
we had a specific need. We had software and we had IT, and IT was
mm,
specific to SAP, and we use something called S4 HANA, which is like all the
yeah,
automation type things. It's very technical. That's about as far as
yeah,
I go with it. It sounds really
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I can say that. Um,
I think we've lost you there, Lindsay. Hello. Yes, you are indeed.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're back again. That's all right. It's okay. No problem. There we go.
YouTube
No, and
working
I
with
listen, that happened.
Wi-Fi, internet and
Yeah,
Wi-Fi,
we'll sort it out. Hey, there we go. And you were talking about IT as well, then, and software and all that type of stuff, right? So maybe they were like, you know
always.
what, now you're in our space. Always
I,
the case, always the case. But no, go on.
IT are my favorite people nowadays, literally because I've helped them. I can get anything I want.
They're like, yes, so what do you need? You probably got the strongest Wi-Fi connection technically than everyone else in the business, right? Because
I
they,
wish. I wish.
that's the basic stuff. The basic stuff, yeah. So you were just saying quickly, so just finish off. So you were saying that obviously this is a space that you were looking at as it was a hard to find roles, a challenge for the business overall and stuff like that. So it's something that you were piloting.
Yeah, we just couldn't find them. So we did all of this research behind it. And we decided to go live with it December. And we actually attracted
Mm,
people. We did it slightly different. It was it's all trial and error at the moment. We actually don't have a framework right now, but we were honest with everybody
yeah,
that came. And said, look,
yeah,
this is what we have on offer. You need to work with us. These are the projects that we've allocated to you. These are the departments you'll work in, all IT based, but in SAP you have service, sales, finance. So there's different areas they'll really get exposure to. Um, classroom experiences. We have a full LinkedIn learning package, which is phenomenal. I have to be honest, it's absolutely phenomenal. There's not much that's not on there. You can really learn from it. Um, giving training such as we do something called 7 Habits training, which is the seek first to understand. It's really life
mm,
methodologies as well.
mm,
We've got project management experience, all these sorts of tools that again are transferable. So
mm,
even if at the end of their program, which is 18 months with us, it doesn't work out being the right one, there's so many opportunities in our, we have 257 job recs open today. So there is somewhere in our
wow,
company that you can be placed. With our graduate scheme,
mm,
what we promised was at the end of the day, there is a role for you. We ring fence these roles specifically to make sure that, yeah, you don't just come in and go. No, we have a job for you at the end of the day. And if it's not here, that's okay too. We can find other areas of our business where you can
mm,
grow into.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
we were successful. We did it on an assessment center. I wouldn't say an old school assessment center. We did an introduction to the
Yeah.
company, an introduction to, the division. We had our CIO actually speak to them, which is pretty impressive when you're,
Nice.
fresh out of
Mm.
university. The CIO comes down and
Yeah.
talks to you
Yeah.
for an hour. We did a tour of all of our machines and really talked it through. We have a demo center on site, so I always joke about it, but we literally have chicken nuggets on demand in our demo center. And they're better
Oh
than
gosh.
McDonald's ones. So, who's not going to want a chicken nugget at the end of a little tour?
I was gonna say
Um,
I might be joining the talk.
there you go. And then, we did sort of I'd say speed dating type interviews. It was sort of 35, 40 minutes of, hey, this isn't about what you've done. We know there's nothing there, but what are you looking for? What's important to you? Where do you want to go? How would you see yourself doing these things? So really personality based. And actually part of our process, we use a company called SHL
Okay.
for our testing.
Yeah.
And we did what's called a personality questionnaire with people. And I have to be honest, I have three trained um people in my team that can do a really, like, everybody's trained on it, but I actually mean
Yeah.
people that have come from the right background to be able to read these.
Mm.
So one of the girls came across from Poland for me to do the reading with everyone, and they were really impressed, and everybody got to ask
Mm.
questions and stuff. So it was a 6 hour day for people that we did, but they really
Mm.
got introduced to the business, because like what you said, if you do an event, do you really match with somebody? Do you really get in touch with them? Do you really understand them? So they met
Mm.
with managers and they met with people. So, and people of similar age groups. So people that were sort of 27, 28, 30, for them to really understand that there is a young enough culture in our business as well, that
Mm.
you can get
Mm.
involved in. We're doing the pilot specifically in the Netherlands. We have certain things in the Netherlands that are set up. We have a under 35 group for people to get involved and socialize and really, work with one
Mm.
another and have a point of contact in the business that may not work with
Mm.
them, but still
Mm.
be there
Mm.
to sort of utilize as a buddy little thing. So we had on our first day with IT, we had 12, and on our software day, we had 10. From the 12, we have 4 in IT now working, which is impressive. We're about to make a fifth at this moment in
Mm.
time. And in software, we actually offered 6 in total. We had 2 rejections, and
Mm.
we have 3 of the 6 now working for us. We actually only had 3 positions. We were like trying to push people to take
Wow.
more. Um,
Yeah.
it's now running for just shy of 2 months, and
Mm.
it's different. They need a lot of support. It is a different generation. I mentioned to you before, I had a stakeholder on the phone earlier today, like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't get it. I don't understand. I have to tell them everything that they need to do. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
different way of
Yeah.
working. You can't just expect people to come into the business and, know what to do.
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
it's really interesting. We're having to take, our stakeholders on a real journey. And the craziest
Mm.
thing about this guy that's on the journey, he himself came in as an apprentice. He himself
Wow.
went through the journey, and
Yeah.
he's just different generation. He's a millennial, and he just dealt with it different. We have to be aware we're
Yeah.
in a different generation now, where there's different expectation, you know, different ways of working. We talked about it before. I told you about the Instagram account that I followed that had
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
mouse clicker, the mouse jiggler to make
Yeah.
sure people knew that she was online. It is a really
Yeah.
different way of thinking. And I think, that's something that TA have to do a lot more than what
Mm.
we generally would do for a normal recruitment piece. We actually have to take our managers on a journey to understand the
Yeah.
difference in the generation and how they have
Yeah.
to work and what this looks like and really how it can be successful. The
Mm.
beauty of this, like I said, it closed direct. It was nearly 500 days, some at 300 days.
Amazing.
It saved us a huge amount of money. Yes, it's a massive investment, but I'm not paying a contractor fee.
Yeah.
I've got at least 18 months commitment, if not 5 years from these people, because let's be honest,
Yeah.
once it's finished, you want to grow and see where you grow. which is an amazing opportunity. You know, I'm a job
Yeah.
hopper. You know, if you look at my
Yeah.
CV, every 3 years, I've
Yeah.
moved a little bit for my own advantage. That's the generation that we are. We want to move, we want to
Mm,
progress.
mm,
I actually think
mm.
you'll get a good 5 years, 3 to 5 years from these people, which is pretty solid in today's, you
Yeah.
know, climate. I have people snapping my hand off right now because the other thing, and I mentioned it when we first opened up, 90% of what you look for is not on a CV, it's your personality.
It's a
And
big thing. It's a big thing.
and
I talk about that all the time.
if you have the opportunity to grow personality and grow culture and allow people to become, in my case, morale, in your case, future match, then what's is that not the best opportunity you could possibly have presented to you?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Why would you
I
not take
agree.
that? You know,
Yeah, I agree.
I've had it in the past where we want people from our competitors because we think they know, but you can't
Mm,
change those people sometimes. You know, there's people
no.
like me that don't yeah, we've got our own insights. You've got people that are a different generation where change is just so unbeknown. And I mentioned
Yeah.
to you before, I've done 2 change managements in 3.5 years. At my company, you need to be ready to change. And I think
Yeah.
that's the generation that understand that. The
Yeah.
the other interesting fact is it doesn't always have to be Gen Z. One of my
No.
people that have been hired into a graduate program, she is 37 years old and has a child.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, because that's an interesting conversation. Listen,
I
we could
know, I'm
probably spend all day
sorry.
talking about this, and that's all right. But it's something that I talk about because I think that you hear about it right now, yeah, where we have two sides. I think we have two sides of the career of the career journey, right? So you've got the first part, which is obviously this early careers, fresh out of uni or graduate or apprenticeship or traineeship, whichever way you phrase it, and then you've got this experience group, right? Like us, so we kind of know what we're doing and all that type of stuff. But then I think one of the results of the pandemic has been this kind of generation, which has sort of said, well, actually, I want to return to work because I've spent a lot of time out of work, and then I want to go back to work for various reasons. And there's also a group where they've kind of gone, you know what, I'm not enjoying what I was doing, and I want to try something different. And it's interesting how I think from a recruitment perspective and from hiring perspective is how do we in a way attract and engage both sides of that fence because I've got people where they've been a CFO for 15 years at one of the major banks. And he basically reached out and said, Kufa, yeah, I wonder if you just help me here. I want to go and do data. I want to become a data scientist or data analyst, right? And every time I go and see any company, the first thing they say to me is I'm overqualified, and they think that I want the $300,000 salary I was on. I don't need. It's not about that. I just love this kind of piece, and it's how kind of then trying to help manage that experience for him as well as from the client expectation piece. But yeah, it's fascinating. So I mean, we'll probably revisit that. We'll probably
Yeah,
revisit that.
for sure.
Right, just to finish off, Colonel, we've got day jobs to do now. So I love. It was really so. Honestly, it was enlightening. I could listen to this all day. So if you look at morale and what you as an organization are doing, what are the three things if you were to share that with, people are going to get a chance to listen to this around the around candidate experience. So what are the three things that you as an organization look at and go, I think we've got this, we've nailed this, and it's really helped us get to where we want to get to.
I think it's first is communication. It's
Yeah,
100% communication, and that's communication actually touch points, proper touch points with
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah,
with with the right information.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
again, the second point's still communication, but it's about the audience that you're communicating to.
yeah,
And then I
yeah,
think finally what makes the team at Morel successful is everybody is themselves there. And the most beautiful thing that you can ever have with anybody that you touch point within morale, and it's something that I often get fed back after people join, or even if the process didn't go well, it was so exciting to see how excited you are by your organization. And that And that's the biggest thing. I've always said to anybody that does TA within the team, if there's a day that comes that you don't jump out of bed because you're not excited by us anymore, then you have to really think if we're the right company. And my movement has kind of happened because I fell out of love. I fell out of love with Hayes. By the time I left Hayes, I had 18 regional directors. It didn't make sense to me anymore. 18 regional directors, really.
Yeah.
So it got to the point where, there was no stability for me. And that was the reason I left. If you look, you have to really enjoy what you do to do this job. Because, I said it to you before, you are almost 24/7 accessible with today's society. LinkedIn, people don't care. They don't care. They'll message you on a weekend through LinkedIn. If your number's somewhere, they'll WhatsApp you at freaking 3 in the morning and still not care. You are so accessible, so you have to really enjoy what you do to put up with some of the things that you have that, there is no break. People really don't understand there really is no break. And then the other part is you have to really enjoy what you do because you are the window to that organization. You are the first touch point that anybody ever speaks to. It's a conversation for another day, branding. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
We are the brand. We are the most important people in the business. And that it's always funny because, particularly internally, you always have this dialogue with HR and, HR think they're superior, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about it. But TA are so instrumental to the success of people coming in and sometimes staying because you find that the people that have come in through you, when it goes bad, you are their confidant to start speaking to as well. And as long as you enjoy what you're doing, then you can do it in the right way. So the three things for me is genuine communication, the way that you communicate to the audience, and then really finally just being in love, not just what you do, but being in love with the company that you work for. Because if that's not there, if the passion's not there, you can't do your job to your best ability, and you can't give the candidate the journey they need.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love that piece. And I always say that, when you look at that communication, as you said, those touch points, it's making sure that each one of those touch points, the information that is being received and given is the right information that allows that candidate to move to the next piece, right? Because I remember briefly you mentioned about, out of the two rejections you had, was they felt that they didn't get enough information of whatever that they're looking for, right? So again, it's like it's reflecting back and going, okay, so from a communication perspective, what is it that you need here? Is it that you need to understand that this is what it looks like every day? These are the highs and the lows of that role. Yes, you're going to be on call 24/7 because that's the nature of the role, versus say an IT role where you might, or versus another role where you might not necessarily be in that space. And then it's that, from us when we're hiring that talent, is being, as you said, authentically, really genuinely excited about the company we're working for, because that transpires. Because also what happens then is, if someone wants to find out a little bit more about the company, I'm quite happy to do that because I love what I do and I love the company I'm in. So literally that infectiousness and enjoyability of what I do reflects, and that person kind of goes, hey, I want to work for this company. And if I don't, I want to tell them how great the experience felt, because they love what they do. Even if I don't join that company, I need to find that feeling in my next phase of the journey. And I love that. The last bit that I also love is I'm a great believer in that as well. That, if you wake up in the morning and you're no longer enjoying any role that you're doing, you really got to look at it and go, is this for me? And I think sometimes companies forget about that as well, that it's okay to go, hey, the time with us has come to an end, but there's a new beginning and something that's going to be more exciting for you, whether it's internally or externally. And it's also having those conversations in the hiring process to say, listen, if there comes a day where you're not waking up and fired up, it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. Then kind of going through it every day, and then because then the whole experience for both of us becomes not very enjoyable.
True.
So yeah,
We teach people at Morel that, you know, it's not just about us, it has to be for that person too. And it's one of the things
yeah,
like, yeah, this particularly when we're hiring in TA, we say, you know, we're not here to drill you. We have to be for you as well. So ask us what you want to
yeah.
know. And that's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Definitely. Thank you so much
No, thank
for
you.
stepping in. And I think there's definitely other topics that I would love to talk to you
Million
about. But
percent.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything and your insight and everything else like that. It's been absolutely amazing, and we'll share this with you as well. But now, thank you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. And
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you'll be in Amsterdam soon, so I'll come and see you in person for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely. We'll probably have to have the whole day with a conference again. Where's Kufa? Hey, Kufa means they're having coffee. They've had lunch. They're having dinner. They're just sitting in the same place, just talking through everything. Right? I love it. No, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Thanks, Kufa. Thanks for the opportunity.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Cheers.